Well, Gavin, welcome to the Gilbert's Motor Museum. Tell us a bit about your beautiful car that you bought here today at the Gilbert's Motor Museum.
Right, well this is a Studebaker prepared for Australia's first land speed record on the beach on the Gold Coast, before there was a Gold Coast. And it was set out with a pointed tail racing body and set for 100 miles per hour, but the soft beach sand held them down to 85 miles per hour, but they still set this record, which is recognised as our first land speed record. And then it had the 3 headlights put on the front and the 3 spare tyres, and it set the Sydney-Brisbane record. And then after that, it had already sign written up as a promotional vehicle and was a new vehicle demonstrator for these importing agents in Brisbane. And it sat in the showrooms in Brisbane. And if you look serious about buying a Studebaker, they'd even take you for a spin in this one. Then the next thing that happened was that it came out in 1919 for the Mount Cootha hill climb, and in a practice run he lost control on a bend and he took out 6 panels of a post and rail fence, which bent up the front axle and sprung the radiator and bent the chassis and everything, and the vehicle was obsolete because Studebaker, the agents in Australia, had built a new pointed tail racing car on the 1918 car. So this thing then was bought by a guy who invented the world's first corn harvester on the Darling Downs. And he took out the components of it, the radiator, motor, front axle and transaxle, and mounted those into a corn harvester to make basically an auto header, because previously they'd all been pulled by 6 heavy horses. But he couldn't get the ground speeds and the operating speeds in sync, so it got parked and it got left on the property until the 1960s, when another guy came along with his son and pulled the components back out, and they just sat as spares and weren't really used. And then I have a 1917 6-cylinder Studebaker and I wanted a radiator, and I got onto the radiator and found that the radiator was not a production 16 radiator, because I have the dealer's parts book for Australia, and found there's something unusual. So it was a numbered radiator, 1 inch thicker in the core and everything, which wouldn't even fit in a normal Studebaker. So I tracked it down and found that all these components still survived. And the engine was made with no serial number, not for public sale, and in a more sporty version of the Big 6 Studebaker. So then I set about, with those components, finding the missing bits I would need to put it back into this vehicle, displaying it on its last race-winning event, the way you see it now, as a faithful reconstruction to show what it did and represent it today.